listening to this, and it's your lucky day, because we're here to help you make sense of this world you don't understand yet. We're true Wasteland Radio hosts Thomas Fielding and Margaret Jones, your friendly guide and travelling companions to the wastelands. You may have just entered from the perfect safety and glowing warmth of a vault and stepped into an entirely different type of glowing, the kind that brings you ghoulification, red scorpions, and somebody else's type of perfect altogether.
In these brief installments, we will take you on a journey of knowledge that may just save your life, because good luck finding a book anymore or a terminal with the password just happening to be nearby. So, if you have indeed just left these comforts and commodities of your vault life, it's probably a safe assumption that you've heard of Vault-Tec. Well, let us reveal today how lucky you may have been to live long enough to see the day that you actually leave. The truth may shock you. In today's episode of True Wasteland Radio, Vault-Tec.
Vault-Tec Corporation is responsible for the mysterious and often alluring vaults found throughout the wastes. Me and my co-host have risked our lives and managed to learn parts of their history through files and documents yet to be eaten or disintegrated. There's one key theme to Vault-Tec upon reflection: failure and sick, unethical practices in the form of experiments.
While the vaults were intended to protect the population from nuclear attack, it's become apparent that many of these vaults were twisted social experiments that quickly failed after the bombs dropped. The earliest account we've found of their existence is the founding of Vault-Tec University in 2031 in Morgantown, Appalachia. It's not until the 2050s the government contracted Vault-Tec to construct fallout shelters with Project Safehouse.
Over 100 vaults were commissioned by the old government, and supposedly 122 of them were built before October 2077, when the war broke out. There is mention of other vaults being constructed over the border in Canada. However, that's the only information we've yet come across regards to the Vault-Tec's involvements outside the US.
While Vault-Tec seems to be largely defunct these days, there's no denying that operations have had numerous effects on our lives today, perhaps the foremost being the existence of these vaults and their protection from the hazards outside versus how lethal their experiments proved to be. Of the 122 vaults created, only 17 were deemed control vaults, meaning no experiment was conducted and these vaults were generally intended to protect their inhabitants. Not all vaults were finished before the war. If you're brave enough and are the venturing type, you can still find 3 of these unfinished vaults. Out of the 17 control vaults, we found accounts upon 3 of them, with 1 failure and 2 opened successfully.
While the fate of all vaults is not known, there have been at least 15 failed experiments by our count, meaning the test subjects died, escaped, or the experiment could no longer continue. Beyond that, there are still a handful of active vaults across the wasteland. Some of these vaults are still in good condition, but with each comes a story of psychological and physical torture. The vaults were designed to put humans in extreme conditions or circumstances and study the resulting data.
The holotapes and terminal accounts we've uncovered so far have ranged from relatively mild to downright lethal.
Some were not provided enough food, others were filled to twice their intended capacity. Many of the results were achieved through the use of drugs, pitting vault dwellers against each other, and in one vault, Vault 11, the residents were forced to select one of their own as a human sacrifice under the threat of extinction, only to be served a congratulatory message should they refuse. Only 5 people remained when that message was eventually broadcast, and unable to cope with the guilt, 4 committed suicide.
The variety and intrigue of these stories from the vaults are so vast, we'll be covering individual shelters throughout our broadcasts. When you hear the name Vault-Tec, you're most likely picturing the vaults, but they are also responsible for a number of advancements in technologies. While it was Robco that created the wrist device known as a Pip-Boy, it was the Vault-Tec that issued one to each of its inhabitants and proved to be an essential item for vault dwellers, complete with a healthcare monitor system, Geiger counter, and even a built-in radio. Vault-Tec even developed their own holodisc game named Pitfall and Red Menace. The latter serves as pre-war anti-Chinese propaganda.
There's a few mentions of Pip-Boy usage outside of Vault-Tec. A note we found in Morgantown implies members of the Free States use them. Some of the most significant Vault technologies include the VATS or VaultTec assisted targeting system, utilised as a way to aid in combat, self-defence or even sport shooting, as we've learned from a note in Vault-Tec University mentioning the pioneer scouts and their parents had access to VATS. Beyond this, Vault-Tec is also responsible for camps, the portable homes which can be deployed to act as an emergency shelter. There is also a device known as the GEC, or the Garden of Eden Creation Kit, designed to prepare Vault dwellers for a post-nuclear wasteland with pieces of equipment and supplies.
While not all of these inventions were useful, it is clear to us that the Vault-Tec Corporation was a significant factor in the downfall of pre-war society. While the wasteland comes with its fair amount of threats, Vault-Tec mainly represents the folly and cruelness of pre-war society.
Ultimately, many would agree Vault-Tec are bad apples, including us here at True Wasteland. However, it wouldn't be a fair summary without acknowledging that they have done humanity at least a small service by saving a part of its population from an apocalyptic end.
Although these were mostly pre-selected individuals who were considered ideal for experiments, any legacy for mankind is a good legacy when in the face of nuclear annihilation, right?
Maybe you yourself have them to thank for your survival, or maybe you have them to curse for what hand they had in the cards you were dealt. On the next broadcast, what's that over there, Wastelander? A giant man in an iron suit with a rifle bigger than a Brahman's broadside.
Enemy or friend? Religious nut with an obsession for pre-war technology or humanity's last hope to rebuild society? Who are the Brotherhood of Steel?
If you're still alive by the time you hear this, we have been your hosts, Thomas Fielding
and Margaret Jones, and this has been True Wasteland Radio.